Hey everybody. So our next speaker needs no introduction. However, if you've been living under a rock, do yourself a favor and go to youtube.com right now. Type in his name, hit subscribe. He puts out like 5 new videos a week on YouTube. I've never seen anybody as dedicated as he is. And he is really close to 100,000 subscribers, so please let's try and get him there. And yeah, if you didn't realize, he also put together the entire CTF for NahamCon. So he's just doing work all around. I don't know when he has time to sleep. But let's welcome to the stage Mr. YouTube, Mr. CTF, Mr. Root of the Knoll, Mr. John Hammond.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to our talk. This is security training at the harbor, or running capture the flags with Docker. You might have seen a variation of this talk before. I have a video up on my YouTube channel that covers this sort of thing, but I wanted to make this special to NahamCon and NahamCon CTF. So we're to be kind of going in the weeds, deep diving on what this CTF was made out of, and giving some credit and kudos to the special people that helped make this possible. So, hello. My name is John Hammond. Just kind of obligatory introduction, For my day job, I work with the United States Department of Defense as a cyber training developer there. In my free time, I like to play a lot of Capture the Flag and practice war games and training. And I also like to develop them and host them, hence NahamCon CTF. I also have a cheesy YouTube channel, and that's growing and it's a lot of fun, but that's certainly a pet project and a side passion. So with me, I have Caitlin DeValk.
So my active day job is I'm actually a Coast Guard officer. I do work in cybersecurity for the Coast Guard, so I'm based here in DC. By night, I help with some of the CTFs that John develops. I also do like to play them both with him as a team as also as an individual. And I like doing web development for fun on the side.
Okay, so I want to give some heartfelt, genuine thank you and kudos to all the people that helped make NahamCon CTF possible. So as much as I would like to say this was entirely me, all on my own, one-man show, there is no way I could do all this without the help of everyone that I'm about to showcase to you. So two personal friends, IRL buddies, Caleb Stewart and Trevor Bryant. Caleb did a fantastic job working on some challenges for the binary exploitation category because he is much smarter than I am in that regard. So he whipped out the dangerous, conveyor belt, and free willy challenges. So kudos to him on those hard hitters. And Trevor. Trevor also helped creating a lot of the challenges in the steganography category, as well as some in the OSINT, or the open source intelligence category. And he also helped test things and moderate during the game. So kudos and thank you to him. Additionally, this time around, it wasn't just, hey, kind of us ragtag kids putting together a capture the flag. Thank you so much to the community that was willing to come out and help put the game together. So Congonator, or Ignacio Dominguez, I might butcher your name, I'm sorry about that, but I cannot say thank you enough. You have been an absolutely incredible contributor, producing a ton of great challenges that really help flesh out the game and help take a lot of the stress off of my back. So thank you to you, and I'm just so thankful. I can't say it enough. Adam Langley, he did an incredible job putting together the Trash the Cache, one of the capstone cumulative hard kicking challenges in the web category. Kudos to you, Adam. Thank you. And out of the blue, Pwn Function came in at like the last week and was like, hey man, do you got any room for another web challenge? I want to throw something in. And I'm like, absolutely, if you've got time for it. So he put together the crisscross challenge, and that is honestly such a crazy challenge, and I'm so glad it made it in. So thank you, Pwn Function, for helping out. And Matt, or M Alpha, holy cow, you have also been a lifesaver. You and Congonator were just such a great help for what the CTF is and became and will be, because I'm so grateful with the challenges that you put together, and thank you for all your testing and helping answering questions, etc. So he put together a lot of the good binary exploitation challenges, some mobile and some scripting. So thank you so much, Matt. I cannot say thank you enough. And of course, there's us. What did you put together, Kaylin?
So I worked on a couple of the really easy web challenges and a few of the warm-up challenges. Challenge development is not necessarily my favorite thing, but I do it to help John most of the time. But I really do enjoy playing CTF, so most of what I did was helping John kind of just set up the CTF in general and just kind of helping with the whole process from start to finish.
Yeah. We are preparing this talk before NahamCon actually kicks off, before the CTF begins. So I'm kind of driving blind in what I'm talking about here. But I mean, I put together kind of all the other challenges that weren't specifically mentioned. The infrastructure was really just all me and some dirty scripts and code, a little bit of Terraform, which was super duper cool, and obviously testing and trying to help host when the real game time hits. But we're just so excited. We really hope that you guys, now talking after the game has ended, when we're speaking about it before it's even started, I just really hope you enjoy the game, and I'm hopeful that all the servers kept up. Hopefully the infrastructure was in place.
So this idea originally started, a lot of the challenges, the idea that we could like make a CTF and put it on, kind of became real with VersetCon, which was something that we did in April. John was asked by NomSec and the Cyber Mentor to kind of put together something last minute when COVID had kind of started, and they were like, let's do something virtual. So we had 67 challenges and we had about 2,500 users by the end of the game. I think scoring wise and throughout it, we had a constant somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people playing. We ended up using only 7 front end servers and back end servers. And the way that we set those up and did that for VersetCon is very different than what we did for NomCon, which we'll kind of get into now.
So yeah, I wanted to use that setup slide to kind of lay the foundation, because NahamCon CTF is even bigger and better than VersetCon. This time around, obviously, June 13th, we're here with NomSec, we're here with the Cyber Mentor, Stoke, and myself. This Capture the Flag, with everyone's help that I just mentioned, so thankful for all the community support and everyone around me. We brought 80 challenges to the table, more than VersetCon, and by the start of the game, we had over 3,000 people register. So we knocked VersetCon out of the water, and I think we're actually getting close to 3,500. We still got 2 hours until the game starts when I check real time while we're prepping this talk. But we amped up the infrastructure. We've got 10 front end servers this time, 10 back end servers. We got some load balancers to distribute them, and we did a lot of much smarter things in preparing for the game. And hopefully we'll see that just unfold, and hopefully it'll be a great game. But NahamCon CTF, much bigger, much better than VersetCon, and that's where we're at. So I'm really thankful and hopeful for that.
So I know most of you will probably know what a Capture the Flag is. For those of you that don't as beginners, obviously cybersecurity competition meant to gamify cybersecurity skills. Essentially, given a problem, you have to hack it, get some kind of flag, whether it's text or random numbers and letters. So specifically for NahamCon, which is different from VersetCon, is that when we're able to include some OSINT challenges as well as some mobile challenges in addition to all the categories we had last time. And we have definitely bumped up the numbers in some of the categories, especially for binary exploitation. And I know for web, we have quite a few more web challenges for this round. So moving into what we kind of used for each challenge, we chose to use Docker. It was something that John and myself were both kind of already familiar with. So Docker is something that you can use to kind of containerize either an application or just a service that's running. It's basically a smaller version of a virtual machine. It kind of allows you to not go through the whole process of using a kind of bulky, sometimes virtual machine, and just kind of something light and quick and very easy to set up for something such as a CTF service that you're going to have to connect to. So it allows us to kind of encapsulate everything that we want in this little machine that you're connecting to with some really easy scripts and some easy setups. So an example right there is the Docker run. You are assigning the port that the challenge is supposed to run on to another port, which is going to be really important later on when we talk about how many challenges we had and how many we had to use to set up, how much we had to use to actually connect to those.
A quick deviation, though, when we're talking about using Docker with hosting the Capture the Flag challenges, we've talked about 2 different kinds of challenges, right? We have the static downloadable files that a player might just pull down from the website, and the challenge kind of exists in that puzzle, unraveling that, trying to find the flag. But we also have the active services that Docker allows us to do. When we create an active service, though, we're kind of trusting the player to behave and work within that. So in VersetCon and even in NahamCon CTF, we put together some challenges where you would interact with a shell, like an actual Linux command line, and do specific things within the file system to track down a flag. what we noticed in VersetCon CTF, and we've seen before, is that it's hard to open this up to the world and expect everyone to behave, right? So sometimes people would vandalize the challenges. Like, yeah, I've given you a Linux file system. Hey, cool. I'm just going to throw a bunch of files in here or overflow this thing and go crazy with it. And it would just destroy the challenge. That wasn't fun for anyone. So what we've come to do and what we've come to realize is, okay, never trust the player. Let's make all of these Docker containers and these dynamic services as secure as we can be, while they still need to be insecure to create a challenge in there. So Docker can create things as read-only or create things with the tempfs or temporary file system. And we also learned about NSJail. So this is an unofficial Google utility that, an unofficial Google utility that we kind of found when we spent some time at the Google CTF finals over in London, but it will isolate any process that we're kind of creating and put together a jailed file system. So it is read-only by default. We can kind of configure that and tweak that to whatever we'd like. But one super duper cool thing about it is that we can also customize not just how the environment looks, what the Docker container instance looks like, but we can also customize the environment per someone connecting to it. Not just, hey, here's a flat image or a static container, a Docker instance that people can connect to, but will allow actually me, hey, kick off a script as soon as someone connects so that I can decorate their environment specific to them. And that's super duper cool. So we use that to ensure each of these services are read-only, locked down, secure, still with the ability to have that capture the flag gamification and puzzle to solve in that. So NSJail is really, really cool, and we're happy to bring that in for NahamCon CTF.
So something that we used to kind of handle the tons of challenges that we made was Docker Compose. So Docker Compose is something that's not necessarily natively built into Docker, but it's a neat tool that we found through some research of how can we automate this? How can we make this as easy as possible? We don't want to manually be doing a lot of this stuff, especially with over 3,000 players and just a lot of challenges to kind of check and make sure that they're running correctly. So something that we can do with this is specifically take a container, a challenge container, and map it to the image that we want, the Docker image, as well as the port. So explicit port mapping. So as you can see, we have some examples where the web challenges need to run on port 80. They're a web challenge, but we obviously don't have 8 different port 80s. That's not a thing. So we can map them to other ports to be able to allow users to still connect to all the different web challenges at the same time. So we used, John kind of just started at 50,000 and we just went up from there. But we can also, using this, we're able to stop and start instances like en masse. So we can say, stop this challenge or stop all the challenges. And we can also restart them and etc. So CTFD is the CTF framework that we decided to use both for VersetCon and NahamCon. So it's basically an open source CTF in a can. That's kind of the catchphrase. So it allows us to have user management, scoreboards, and as well as what John was talking about, dynamic and static challenges. So CTFD is really nice in that it's kind of it's a really easy interface to interact with. It is something that's built more towards mass challenge creation, not kind of like the Pico CTF framework that some of you might be familiar with, where it's kind of a per individual view and it's more geared towards an individual instance per user. For CTFD, we kind of are doing this in en masse connection, challenge connection. There are some other framework options mentioned there, and you can always create your own and have a custom one, but we chose to use an open source one because it was easier for us.
CTFD is great and all as a front end, but it doesn't take care of a lot of the infrastructure for you like Pico CTF might. You'll have to kind of go ahead and build, deploy, create, provision all of the actual hosts and servers that are running the CTF with on your own. And there's not a whole lot of good way to, there isn't a good way to actually put together a lot of challenges, especially if you take a CTF and you reuse things. A lot of the time you're manually interacting with the admin panel of CTFD. And if you're programmer or you're a guy that just kind of likes the keyboard, you're normally a keyboard junkie, you try to automate stuff, moving around and clicking around with your mouse is just really clunky and stupid and wastes a lot of time. So I hated doing that for 60 challenges in VersetCon, 80 challenges in NahamCon, and for any other game that I put on. I just get so tired of doing that. What I ended up doing and putting together was realizing that, well, CTFD works with JSON, or that, what is it, JavaScript object notation? Yes. JSON. Forgive me, right? Those, it'll export and import some configuration files that are put together with JSON. So what I did is that I realized that, okay, all of my challenges I can put in a regular directory structure and then create like the classic flag.txt or a generate script to actually build that challenge and specify my own challenge.json. So I can specify every single challenge description and name and what files are attached to it and point value and everything and hints that might be necessary. And I could just write something that will loop through all of those, all the challenges that I have, and bundle them up into an importable CTFD zip file. So that way I don't need to mess with CTFD whatsoever. I just, okay, start the instance, create it, spit it up so that I have a bare bones empty CTF created. And then I just say, let me import this zip that I just bundled everything for you. And then in mass, all of a sudden I have 80 challenges and I never had to touch the back end. That's all put together with auto CTFD is kind of my poor man's style code, right? That's on my GitHub if anyone has any interest in that, but I just got so tired of duplicating and renaming and modifying all the crap within CTFD in the admin panel. So auto CTFD will allow us to just create one standalone zip file that we can throw at the server, and then CTFD will create an instance with all of the challenges ready and available, and that's super duper handy. So that's something we put together for this one, and it really made my life easier putting together all the challenges when it got close to game time. DigitalOcean, holy cow, thank you so much. DigitalOcean last time for VersetCon, thankfully I had some DigitalOcean credits from a Capture the Flag that I guess I had won some time ago. That was prize. This time around I didn't have credits, and we reached out to DigitalOcean and said, look guys, we're trying to put together this humongous worldwide international conference and Capture the Flag, and can we have some help, because it's going to take a little bit of coin to spin up all these servers. And thank you so much to DigitalOcean for being willing to help out. They have been phenomenal in giving us, now for one thing, a new limit on droplets that we can use, a new amount of floating IPs that I can use, and of course credits to actually spin all this up so we can give you the powerhouse servers that we need to run this thing. So with that, we ended up using 10 front-end servers, more than VersetCon, and those were those CTFD instances. 10 backend servers for all the challenges that actually require Docker and Docker Compose and NSJL and everything we talked about, and some load balancers that, okay, will actually hide behind all those other 10 backend or front end instances. So the load balancer will distribute among them. We ended up using a Redis caching server so we can keep track of your session. CTFD likes that. It's also useful when you have a lot of instances. And one MySQL database. I need to get a little bit smarter on this, so this is my marching orders for the next Capture the Flag or whatever else I do. You can create multiple MySQL databases and make them replicate each other, and maybe they'll all work off of one main server that has the real read and write access, but all the others will still echo that. They'll actually be able to know that information and still pass it on to all the others, and maybe you can put that behind a load balancer so we can do that in the future. But DigitalOcean is what we've been using to host, and I'm just so grateful. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I definitely would not be able to put this together without your help. Afford it, you know what I mean? And Terraform. Terraform is now what I use to set up all this infrastructure, because DigitalOcean is great. The manual stuff that you do within their web interfaces is really nice and fancy, but I still want to automate all of it, because I'm going to need a lot of setup. I'm going to need that database. I'm going to need that Redis server. I'm going to need that front end. I'm going to need those backends configured with Docker and everything. So I got a little bit smart on Terraform this time around and was able to use that to create all of those instances within DigitalOcean. What I would do is I would create one backend instance first, get it provisioned with Docker and Docker Compose and be able to, I don't know, have an image and an instance for all the challenges, pull down from a repository that I've been working out of. And I would make one front end instance that would decorate it with Nginx and Unicorn and have all these workers and spin up the CTFD instance and connect it to a database because Terraform spun that up as well. So once I had those individual instances of the front end or back end, I would just fan them out and clone them to have more of them after I've got all the actual downloadable files and the static stuff necessary for each of those front ends and all the dynamic services set up for the back end. So I'm pretty pleased with that Terraform code and that stuff. If anyone's interested after the fact, I'm more than happy to share some of that stuff, but it's dirty stuff to go ahead and set up CTFD and Docker and everything. But it made my life so much easier because now we have a quick and easy orchestration to bring up this infrastructure whenever we need it. So that's super duper helpful.
So something that we have this time that's a little bit better than last time, we did have health check scripts for VersaCon. We've kind of made them a little bit better now. Instead of just saying like, hey, is this challenge up? If not, just like restart it. For some of those challenges in VersaCon that John had mentioned, it didn't really help when people had already abused the challenge or checked for that. So we kind of got a little bit smarter this time. So this is a screenshot of part of the health check. So it goes through, checks it, tries to connect to it, says, is this healthy? If not, it stops it and then restarts it using that Docker Compose, which is really important. Something that for us to be able to just stop and start those versus us previously having to manually go in there and stop and start a challenge. That's what I spent majority of my time doing in the last CTF, was manually going in and finding on every single, logging into every single backend and restarting every single instance of that challenge in the backend, which for some of them was quite often. So now it actually allows us to check that, and it will then tell us if it's back up and running. Something that we had talked about, I don't think we implemented it, was checking to see if the flag was still where it was supposed to be. Did we implement?
No, not at the moment, but we hopefully will scramble that.
It was something that we talked about, kind of, that's kind of an improvement, as John said, marching orders for the next CTF, if possible, to have it, if we can see if the flag is still where it's supposed to be, if someone has moved it, removed it, or that. I went through and checked all the challenges this time, hopefully correctly, and that all the flags were not able to be removed or edited, but you never know. So that's just something to think about for us for next time. So some of the resources that we had, we just kind of wanted to give you guys a list. Basic Docker stuff. Docker is amazing. I use Docker as well as DigitalOcean in general for a lot of my personal projects, and their tutorials and information that's out there is amazing. John mentioned the Terraform stuff he found with DigitalOcean, as well as some of the other general stuff that you can have. So some of the other GitHubs we linked were NSJL, CTFD, as well as some of the Docker, CTFD Docker challenges specifically that we used in order to like create CTF specific Docker containers, because you can use Docker for anything.
Cool. So thank you guys for tuning in and for just listen to us kind of do a spiel on the CTF. And honestly, I just wanted to again drive home the thank you and kudos to you for listening, and especially us thanking all those community supporters, our IRL personal friends between Caleb, Trevor, and Caitlin for one thing, and Congonator and Pwn Function and M Alpha and Adam Langley and everyone that was willing to help out. We're I can't say it enough. I'm just so thankful for that. If you guys have any other questions for us, hit us up in the Discord. I'm happy to, hopefully we'll be doing a stream after the competition, after the CTF ends, so we can get a little bit more casual, kind of let our hair down, and talk about more of the stuff in the weeds. And we're again speaking from before the CTF even starts. So we are hoping that it all goes well and it was a great time. You're listening and watching this after the fact, after the competition is over. So fingers crossed, everything went off without a hitch and you had a great time and you learned a lot. So thank you. We appreciate all you all. Take care.